Ayo, so what is up guys, 5k over here and welcome back to yet another Unity 3 tutorial. Now in the previous tutorial we added car sounds to our cars, which we took from Forza Motorsport, and in this tutorial we're gonna add tracks to our game, and also we're gonna set up a simple lap system using checkpoints and stuff. So we're gonna start off with adding tracks. Now I've created two tracks over here. One is called the Desert Road and the other is just Racetrack. I call it Serenium, not that it means anything. Anyways, this here is what Desert Road looks like. Let me just open it up. It's just a simple track which goes through a desert, as its name suggests, and this here is Serenium. Now again, a simple racetrack I made using Blender, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna quickly drag and drop our mesh into the scene so I can show you guys how it is. Just zoom out a bit. Alright, so there it is. Now just to explain a couple of things, we've got the road here and the vegetation and stuff over here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a terrain around this. Now I'm not gonna create it in the video, I've already set it up, and I'm just gonna show you what these white barriers through the side are. So these are basically the colliders for the track barriers, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn off the mesh renderer for this. So as you can see, there is this metal barrier to the side, and this will act as the collider. Now the reason we're not adding mesh collider to this is because it's got too many vertices and it's just gonna take a lot of time to calculate all the collisions and stuff. So we just replaced it with a simple collider, and also this one is much bigger, which means the car can't just flip over or anything. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the mesh collider and show you guys how it looks. So there it is. We've got an invisible barrier which runs along the track, and the same thing goes for Serenium. So I'm just gonna delete this and show you guys the tracks I've already set up. So this one and this one, let me just enable them. So here we have the desert road. I've added this terrain around it, nothing too high detailed or anything, just a simple terrain. And I've got the track set up over here just like this. I'm gonna go over to Serenium. So as you can see, Serenium also has an invisible barrier along its side in place of this one over here, and it does the same thing all around the track except for a few places where we don't really need it. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna head over to data implementer. Now the thing is, now that we've set up our tracks, we want our car to move over to the starting position when you start the game. So what we're gonna do is, alright, not data implementer, what we're gonna do is we're gonna set the car's position first. So let's double click on the car, and this here is the position that I've set it up in. It's the starting position for the desert road. So I'm just gonna copy these coordinates and paste them over here at the data implementer's track coordinate element 0. So as you can see, this here is the value for which the car will be over here, and I've already set up the other value as well. So let me just copy this value to here to show you the starting position in Serenium. So as you can see, this here is the starting position for Serenium Racetrack, and the same values is over here in data implementer. Now when you select the track, the car will be positioned either at this position, which is the desert road starting post, or the Serenium starting post based on the track you selected. Alright, now we're gonna add a little more thing to this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new variable called this track mesh, and it will be of type game object. It will be an array. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and type in track mesh dot, alright, not dot, track selected dot set active true. So basically what we're doing is by default, right, there's a small typo here and it's pretty fine. So what we're doing is basically by default both of these tracks would be disabled, and when you start the game it's gonna enable whichever track you've selected. So the reason is if we got both of these tracks enabled at the same time, it might take up a bit more memory than usual, since we're basically loading up both these tracks. Now in this case we won't need to load up both these tracks, we're only going to load up whichever track we've selected. Now another thing I'm going to do is, you can see, let me click on my main camera. I'll change the script from mouse orbit, which was what we were using, to smooth follow, and I've set the distance to 6, height to 1.5, and basically changed all the values over here. Now the problem with smooth follow is that it kind of follows your car, and by default the camera is over there, which means if we were to load up Serenium, the camera would just travel from over there up until here. Now that's kind of a weird thing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna head back to data implementer, and we're gonna create another variable called cam, and would be of type game object. Now we're just gonna do the same thing we did with car position to cam.position. So let me just change this to cam. So there we have cam.position equals this. So basically wherever the car is, cam will be there. Alright, so let's just quickly assign all these values. So track mesh size would be 2. Now the first track is desert road, so I'm just gonna desert road, and the second is Serenium. So let me just, alright, now by default both of these would be disabled. Next thing we need to do is we need to assign our camera. So let me just drag in cam to here. Alright, so where is cam again? Can't see cam. Wait a minute, what happened to the script? Alright, where cam of type game objects, just below track mesh. That's weird. This is not compiled yet. Alright, I'm just gonna try to do this one more time. I don't know what happened over there. So variable cam of type game object, this should work. Alright, so basically we need to add a transform over here, because we're kind of working with a game object. So as you can see, this one, I didn't see the error over there till now. Alright, now it should work. Alright, there we have cam. So I'm just gonna drag in our main camera to this. Now I'm gonna head over to our car selection scene. Now car selection scene has changed a lot since the last time we played. I've made some improvements to the UI. Wait a minute, let me just disable this and enable this. Alright, so car selection, as I said, has changed a lot since the last time. So I'm gonna make a separate tutorial on this, how to work with layouts and stuff. So this is fully done using layouts. Don't mind the black thing over here, I haven't really fully set this up yet, and we'll be doing it in the tutorial on this. So I'm just gonna click on select, click on desert track, and click on play. So there we have desert track over there. Now I'm just gonna go back, click on Serenium and play, and there we have Serenium. So as far as the track selection goes, it works pretty fine now. Now it's time for us to set up our lap system. Alright, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna create a plane for now. See, I don't want to start working with the tracks as of now. We're gonna implement the system to tracks later on. So we're just gonna start off with plane, a simple plane, and I'm gonna assign a new material to this. So I've created a material called grid over here, so I'm just gonna assign that to this. Now what we're gonna do is, first thing, we're gonna create an empty game object, call this checkpoints. Just gonna duplicate this, put this one inside here. I'm just gonna call this 1. I'm gonna duplicate this around 2 more times and call this 2 and call this 3. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to create these checkpoints. Alright, so I did a simple mistake over here. Just delete this. We're just gonna create a new 3D game object because we want to see what our checkpoints would be like. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna scale this up. So let me just scale it up along that axis, along the y-axis, and just a bit more. Alright, that should do it. Now what I'm gonna do is I've already created a material called checkpoint. I'm gonna assign it to this. So checkpoint basically is kind of like a half transparent material, I guess. It also has a red tint to it, so you know where the checkpoints are. Now I'm just gonna go to the orthographic view and I'm gonna duplicate this. Before that, let me just rename this to 1, duplicate it, put it somewhere over here, rename to 2, duplicate this again and put somewhere over here, damn it, somewhere over here, and rename this to 3. Now what we're gonna do is, let me just go back there. So we've got a game object called checkpoints and we've got 3 checkpoints inside it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to scripts folder and create a new C# script, and this will be called the lap system. Let me just open up the lap system. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to create a public int called number of checks. So this is basically the number of checkpoints we have. So what I'm gonna do is in the start function I'm gonna put in this. So this is basically called child count. It returns the number of children a given game object has. So in our case we're gonna look at the number of children checkpoint has, or rather the game object checkpoints has. Alright, so I'm just gonna go over to here and type in null check will be equal to game object dot find checkpoints dot transform dot child count. Alright, so basically we have just found out the number of checkpoints it has. I'm just gonna create another public int called cur checkpoint or cur check. So I'm gonna assign cur check to 1. Now I will explain this later on, so let me just do that. And the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create another public int, god damn it, public int called number of laps, and number of laps would be set to 3. Now we're gonna implement this to our track selection menu, which means you can select the number of laps you want. And finally we'll have a public int called current lap. Now current lap would be 1 when you start, and based on, alright, damn it, equals 1. And when you start finishing up the checkpoints and when you're at the last checkpoint, it would increment the value of current lap, which would mean it would become 2, and basically it would go up until the number of the current lap would be equal to the number of laps. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over to our game scene. And so as you can see, we've got 3 checkpoints over here. Now what I want to do is when the game starts, we're going to be over here, and this is going to be checkpoint 1, 2 and 3. Alright, so the car is going to look for a checkpoint called 1, and if it passes through 1, the next checkpoint it would look for would be 2. So that is what current check is. So current check is the checkpoint the car is looking for. Now the reason why we want a variable called current check is because without it you could probably go through the same checkpoint around 5 times, and the lap would just get incremented and the number of checkpoints would get incremented. So you want to make sure that after 1 you don't go through 3 but you go through 2. Alright, so if that makes any sense to you. So basically what we're doing is once the car starts, we're going to start checking for the checkpoint 1, and once the car enters the checkpoint, we're just gonna start checking for checkpoint 2. Now before we start this, we might wanna put this to trigger. See, the thing is, we don't want our car to collide with this, so we're just gonna enable this is trigger option. Now the next thing I want to do is I'm gonna create this function over here. It's a function called Ontriggerenter. So as you can see, there's an example over here. Now I'm gonna create this function, void Ontriggerenter, and this would have a collider called setCall. And what this is going to do is, for now we're going to just give an if statement. If what are we going to do? Alright, so let me just look at the example again. Alright, so before that we need to do another thing. So let me just click on all these 3. Now we need to tag this. Alright, we need to tag this game object. So we're just gonna click on add tag. I'm gonna click on this plus over here, name this checkpoint. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna have our car to search for, or rather when our car is going through a collider which has got the tag checkpoint, alright, it's gonna log it in here. So that's what we're gonna do for now, and later on we're gonna implement our checkpoint system. So basically what I'm gonna do is if checkCall dot tag equals checkpoint debug dot log checkCall dot name. Alright, now we're just gonna quickly test this out. So for now I'm gonna disable data implementer, since we want to be able to start from this scene and not go back to car selection all the time. So I'm just gonna do that and click on play. Alright, so basically the camera has some kind of a problem. Alright, so I guess what we're doing is the camera's up, or camera somewhere around there. So I want to move the camera to the same position as the car, so I'm just gonna copy the transform and paste it over here. I'm just gonna click on play. Alright, there we have the car. So I'm just gonna slowly move through the checkpoint 1. Alright, so it clearly didn't log that. Alright, I just did a really stupid thing. I forgot to assign our script to the car, so just drag and drop the lap system over here. Now click on play. Was a really stupid mistake. Alright, so I'm just gonna go through there, and there we have 1 over there, 2, and I'm just gonna go through 3, 3 again through 1, 2. Alright, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually start incrementing our laps based on this. So I'm just gonna delete this if and replace it with a new if. Now what we want is if checkCall dot name equals current check dot to string, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna start incrementing current check plus plus. Now in the update function, we're gonna check if our current checks number is greater than the number of checks, which means we have just, did a lap around the track, and we're gonna increment our current lap. So in the update function, what we're going to do is we're going to create another if, and inside this, if car check greater than number of checks, and in this we're gonna put in no laps, no, not number of laps, current lap plus plus, and current check would be reset to 1, and that should work pretty fine. So let me just click on play and see what happens. So it's compiling, no errors, that's good. Now we're gonna move forward. So current check is 1 now current check is 2, which means we're searching for the second checkpoint. We got the second checkpoint, now we're looking for checkpoint 3, and as you can see, current lap just bent up. Alright, now I'm just gonna do this again. 2, 3, and current lap just bent up again. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try going back through that checkpoint, or rather I'll go through this checkpoint instead. Oh, damn it, just missed that. I missed such a huge thing. Alright, so as you can see, it makes no difference because as of now we're looking for checkpoint 1, and if we go through there, current checkpoint is incremented to 2. So basically our checkpoint system works pretty fine. Now what we want is, once our current checkpoint, or rather if current lap greater than number of laps, then we're just gonna put in our pause menu or whatever over here. We're gonna do our score menu or something later on, but for now we're just gonna put in our pause menu. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new UI image. Alright, so now I'm just gonna scale this up to cover the screen, and I'm gonna put it to stretch mode, and I'm gonna name this game over. Alright, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this to a bit of a transparent mode. Alright, and I'd like to bring this to the middle. There it is. So we're just gonna keep that over there. I'm gonna move this forward. Alright, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna have a huge text displayed over there called game over. Alright, I need to better. I'm gonna put this over here. Do I have any other font? Alright, I've installed a couple of other fonts, so I'm just gonna go with, I don't know, what do I go with? Roboto? No, Roboto. Alright, I guess I'll just go with this, and I'll just write game over. Now the problem is, even if we kind of display this, we're still gonna be able to control our car, so we're gonna have to modify that as well. Alright, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna increase this font size up until there, and this would be inside a game object or empty game object called game over, or rather UI. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new public game object called this GOUI, and what we're gonna do is GOUI dot enabled, or rather dot set active true. So by default, game over UI would be set to false, and once you're done with the game, it would come, or it would be enabled. Now this part over here, go back thing, we're gonna modify all this in a later tutorial just based on pause menu. So we're just gonna test this out real quick. So I'm just gonna go over to the car. Alright, I haven't assigned this yet, so I'm just gonna quickly assign this. So 1, alright, now it's 2, 3. I'm just gonna quickly go through there, and current lap is 2 now, so I'm just gonna go back over there. Current number of laps is 3, and current lap is 3 now. There we go. And finally, there it is. So the problem now is we can still control our car. Now you can see I've taken around 25 minutes for this tutorial, so I guess I'm gonna do this whole part in another tutorial. So the next tutorial, I guess I'm gonna explain the car selection menu's layout system, the pause menu, as well as the game over scene. We're gonna possibly create an animation, and also we're gonna add the number of laps to our car select or track selection menu. So basically when you select the track, you will be able to set the number of laps you want. Also, we're gonna implement the same system of checkpoints in our real tracks and see how it goes. Now that would be a bit of a wrap, since it'd be extremely hard to test this out, since the tracks are usually really long, but we'll do that, never mind. And also we're gonna, after all we're done with all the testing, we're just gonna kind of like disable the mesh renderer of all this, so you don't have an actual physical checkpoint anywhere. So that's up for the next few tutorials, so I'll see you guys. Stay tuned for the next tutorial. Thank you.